Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Corn Belt. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. We've got a lot to talk about here, and we're going to focus on primarily this winter storm, this weekend winter storm. As we go through this video, we've got blizzard warnings in effect across parts of the northern plains, winter storm warnings in effect across parts of the upper Midwest and the central plains here with the pink shading, and then surrounding that, this purple shading here, that is a wide-ranging, wide territory of winter weather advisories. And then what you don't see under that across parts of the central plains, the mid-Mississippi Valley, is a flood watch, the winter weather advisory laying on top of that. Now, this is an experimental product put out by the National Weather Service, their experimental winter storm severity index. They combine the impact here of snow, ice, freezing rain, winds, temperatures, and put those together for to try and convey the impact to us here, the humans. And so, again, we see the strongest impacts here across parts of the northern plains. That's where those blizzard warnings are in effect, and we also have extremely cold temperatures coming in with very strong wind gusts. So wind chills are going to be very dangerously cold across that region. That's a big reason for the major impacts in that area. As you head into the upper Midwest, down into the eastern Corn Belt, the central and eastern Corn Belt, that's where we get that yellow, that orange shading there, the minor to moderate impacts. We'll talk about what those are here in just a moment. Now we'll start off looking at the infrared satellite picture. You can see the upper level trough beginning to dig here across the Intermountain West with those strong winds ejecting across the central plains. So lots of moisture being drawn northward from the Gulf of Mexico. We've got a wide area of precipitation already underway from the central plains into the southern plains. Now, as we take a look at temperatures here, a wide range from the single digits to near zero across the northern plains, below zero in the state of Wisconsin, to the mid-20s to near freezing in parts of the mid-south. Now we'll just stair-step in a simple way, just watching the timing of this storm system first, beginning midday Friday with that area of snow beginning to expand into parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and western Illinois, with the transition zone here across parts of Kansas, central and southern Missouri, where we're talking about a mix of snow, freezing rain, and sleet, with rain across the southern plains. As we head into the overnight tonight, so midnight tonight, getting into Saturday morning, the storm system is lifting to the north. Now the snow overspreading parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, getting into the eastern Corn Belt, parts of Indiana and Ohio. On the south end here, or I guess in the middle here, from parts of Iowa into northern and central Illinois, central Indiana, that's where we're talking about that transition, sleet, freezing rain, some minor ice accumulation possible at this time. This is when we'll be seeing those blizzard impacts across the Dakotas with the strong winds and the heavy snow falling. As we get into Saturday morning, sunrise on Saturday, the area of low pressure right around the Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa border. Strong warm air advection with this one. Again, the storm system lifting to the northeast, so drawing a lot of warm air northward. This is when much of Illinois and Indiana transition over to all rain as we head into Saturday morning. So kind of a weird situation across central Illinois where we could see some snow accumulate this afternoon and evening, and then some ice on top of that. But then we warm up into the lower 40s, transitioning over to all rain. So any snow that accumulates in some of these areas in central Illinois into Indiana as well could end up melting quickly overnight, or at least turning into a slushy mess by Saturday morning. Blizzard impacts continue across parts of the northern plains, the upper Midwest, strong winds and heavy snow falling. As we head into Saturday evening, 6 p.m. on Saturday, the low pressure center now moving into the Great Lakes. Snow beginning to taper off. We're done with precipitation now across much of the area, but parts of Wisconsin, Michigan, and the far eastern Corn Belt still perhaps dealing with some snow and some strong winds. And then by the time we get to Sunday, the only precipitation is going to be in the form of some lake effect snow across parts of Michigan, across northern Ohio, northern Indiana, parts of the eastern Corn Belt. I guess across the rest of the Corn Belt here, this is when the cold air starts to move in. By the time we get to Monday morning, high pressure situated over the Corn Belt. This is going to be when we see the core of the coldest air start to move into the region. And then as we get into the end of the week, starting to see that the air mass begin to transition. We'll talk about what happens here as we get into the mid to later part of the week here in just a moment. Let's talk about the timing on the precipitation as we head through the morning hours today into around noon on Friday afternoon. This is again when we see that snow beginning to lift into parts of the northern plains and the upper Midwest. We'll take it into Friday evening, seeing that snow spread into parts of central and northern Illinois, into northern Indiana with that transition zone here of some freezing rain, some sleet beginning to push into central and western Illinois, the St. Louis area, getting into Des Moines, seeing that wintry mix as we head into the evening hours tonight. As we head into around midnight tonight, that's when, again, warm air being drawn northward. We see that warm front kind of situated somewhere across this region. Temperatures warming into the 40s across central Illinois, transitioning over to all rain as we head into the overnight hours. And again, the very strong winds churning around the backside of this area of low pressure. That's what creates the treacherous blizzard conditions across this region. As we move forward, take the drawings off here. Heading into sunrise on Saturday morning, watching for all rain across Illinois, Indiana, snow continuing across parts of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, into Michigan. That's where the heaviest snow will be falling at this point on Saturday morning. Heading into midday on Saturday, 6 p.m. on Saturday. And this is when we're starting to see things transition. We're seeing that cold front now pushing into this region. Very strong winds out of the northwest, bringing in much colder air, a dramatically colder air mass into this region here. A big chunk of the Corn Belt, but the core right in that corridor with snow tapering off by this time across much of the region. We'll take it all the way out here into early on Sunday into midday Sunday, so noon on Sunday. The storm system has lifted out of the area, perhaps some lake effect snow possible across this region, but really bringing precipitation to an end and talking about the potential for some very cold air across the region. So we'll just play a loop of the temperatures. First, you'll see the warmer air lift northward, and then here comes that sharp cold front sweeping through the area here through Saturday and Sunday. Let's talk about the timing with the cold front real quick. We'll bring it back here to Friday. Watching mostly warm air advection at this point through the day on Friday. We're seeing warm air drawn in ahead of the storm system now. You're seeing that cold front begin to organize 6 a.m. on Saturday, noon on Saturday, 6 p.m. on Saturday. This cold front has swept through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, pushing into Ohio. And then as we head into midnight, Saturday night into Sunday morning, the cold front has cleared the region, and we'll now see the core of the very coldest air begin to filter in. Total precipitation, total liquid precipitation, a core of an inch to an inch and a half here from parts of eastern Oklahoma through the Ozarks into the eastern Corn Belt. On the north side, this is where we'll be seeing slightly less but more in the way of wintry precipitation as we look at the forecast snowfall accumulation here through the weekend from the National Weather Service. Again, in this region, a little tricky here because we could see anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow here accumulating, but some of that could quickly melt overnight Friday night into Saturday morning. The heaviest snow accumulation here found across the upper Midwest, the northern plains into the Great Lakes. This is where we're talking about anywhere from 6 to 10 inches, potentially higher here where we get some enhancement from the lakes here and some lake effect snow as we head through the remainder of the day, Saturday into Sunday. This is where we could be talking about anywhere from maybe 10 to 16 inches of snow. So a complex storm system that, again, kind of lifting through the region. So the impacts are a little unusual, especially on the south and eastern side here with that snow first and then transitioning to rain instead of, starting as rain and then transitioning to snow with cold air coming down the backside. Now, what happens with temperatures as we head forward? Again, we will bring in some dramatically colder air from the Canadian prairies here as we head into the early part of next week. But as we just take this into the middle and later part of the next week, instead of that trough just anchoring itself in the region, it continues to move on, and we kind of return back to this pattern that we've seen over the last several weeks, which transitions us back to a near average or warmer than average pattern across much of the Corn Belt. Of course, it's still January, so it still may be cold across the region, but the bigger point is that when this cold air comes in here over the weekend into early next week, it's not a cold air mass that's going to anchor itself across a widespread area, lingering with brutally cold temperatures. It's going to be several days of very cold temperatures before we start to rebound, especially across the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Ohio River Valley. Your high temperatures for the day on Friday, anywhere from near 20 degrees, the upper teens in the north to the upper 40s in the mid-south parts of Kentucky. Warming up in advance of the storm system, you really see the impacts here, or the counterclockwise flow around the storm system here. Cold air coming on the backside on Saturday, dropping temperatures. Very cold on Sunday and Monday. Temperatures still cold on Tuesday, but you start to see those temps rebounding. You'll see it with the lows here tonight as well. Heading into Sunday, very cold air moving into the region, near zero in parts of central Illinois, into the negative teens across the northern Dakotas. And then you start to see very cold air still on Tuesday morning, but that area of cold air starting to shrink. It shrivels up even more as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning ag forecast video. He also really hit the long-term impacts on the Thursday video yesterday. If you missed that and you're curious more about where we're headed in the 1 to 2 week time frame, go ahead and watch that. And then I'll be back to talk about the Corn Belt once again on Tuesday. Have a great day. and a wonderful weekend.